Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you would have defended them to the world? Someone whose laugh, whose smile, whose very presence felt like family. Someone you thought could never hurt you? Jessica Mulroney knew that feeling all too well. For years, she had a friendship that looked perfect from the outside. Glamorous events, high-profile appearances, seemingly endless support and loyalty. Meghan Markle was more than a friend. She was someone Jessica had welcomed into her life, into her family, into the heart of everything she cared about. And yet, that same friend would betray her in a way that would leave her shocked, humiliated, and questioning every relationship she had ever trusted. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. This story is not just another celebrity feud. No, it goes deeper than headlines. It cuts into trust, loyalty, and the sacred boundaries of friendship. Jessica Mulroney is finally breaking her silence. And what she reveals about Meghan Markle, about what happened with her husband, will shock you. Because it's not the kind of gossip that gets shared in passing. This is intimate. This is personal. This is explosive. And until now, the world has only seen fragments, rumors whispered behind closed doors, and speculations fueled by social media storms. But Jessica is speaking, and she's speaking for the first time, fully, without filters. The question we all need to ask ourselves is simple. What happens when someone crosses the line that should never be crossed? When betrayal doesn't just sting, but pierces the very foundation of your life. Jessica found herself facing this question in a way she never could have imagined. The night that would unravel everything began like any other. Events, parties, laughter, the illusion of perfect friendship. But in an instant, that illusion shattered. What she witnessed, what she endured, was a betrayal that changed the trajectory of her personal life forever. We'll get to the shocking details soon, but first, let's set the stage. Jessica Mulroney is not just a celebrity stylist or a media personality. She is a mother, a wife, a friend, someone who built her life carefully and with intention. Her husband, her family, her career. Everything mattered to her, and she was generous with her trust, with her support, with her belief that people she loved would protect and honor that trust in return. Meghan Markle entered that world with charm, wit, and confidence. Together, they were unstoppable, or so it seemed. The public adored their camaraderie, their shared elegance, their seemingly unbreakable bond. People looked at them and envied the friendship, the closeness. But envy often blinds us to the cracks forming beneath the surface. So how did things go so wrong? How did a friendship that appeared golden become a source of heartbreak and scandal? Jessica Mulroney says it started small. Small comments, small betrayals, moments that seemed inconsequential at first, but were actually warning signs. And here's the thing about betrayal. It rarely announces itself with fireworks. It creeps in quietly, subtly, disguised in laughter, in charm, in moments that make you question your own perceptions. Jessica began noticing shifts in Meghan's behavior, subtle manipulations, moments where boundaries were tested and ignored. At first, she shrugged them off. After all, Meghan was her friend. Friends forgive. Friends overlook. But forgiveness has limits, especially when someone repeatedly tests those boundaries. Then came the party, the event where everything changed. Imagine a glamorous gathering, people dressed to impress, laughter filling the room. Everything looked normal, perfect, even. But behind the smiles and champagne, the real story was unfolding. Jessica witnessed behaviors that she could never have anticipated. Her trust, her sense of safety, her perception of what friendship meant. It was all under siege. And the central figure in that betrayal? Meghan Markle. The lines that should have been sacred, the boundaries that should have been inviolate, were crossed. And the person most affected, most betrayed, was Jessica herself. What exactly happened that night? Jessica has held back the full details for months, even years. She needed time to process, to understand the enormity of the betrayal, to protect her family and herself. Speaking out is not just a choice, it's a reckoning. And the revelation she has decided to share? It is as shocking as it is heartbreaking. She claims Meghan forced herself into an inappropriate intimacy with her husband. Yes, you heard that right. The betrayal was not emotional alone. It was personal, intimate, and utterly devastating. It's the kind of revelation that sends shockwaves through every aspect of your life, shaking the foundation of trust you thought was unshakable. Now, let's pause for a moment. Imagine your closest friend doing the unthinkable. Imagine someone you celebrated, someone you supported, someone whose success you cheered for, turning your world upside down in a single night. That's the kind of shock Jessica endured. And yet, she didn't respond impulsively. She didn't take to social media to vent or attack. She protected her family. She shielded her children. She absorbed the initial shock in private, wrestling with questions that we all ask when confronted with betrayal. How could this happen? Did I misread the signs? Could I have prevented it? Should I forgive? And while Jessica wrestled privately, the world continued to speculate. Headlines hinted at conflict, social media exploded with theories, rumors ran rampant, but none of them told the whole story. None of them captured the emotional weight of discovering that someone you loved and trusted could betray you in such a personal, intimate way. Jessica had to navigate a delicate balance, protect herself, protect her family, and decide when and if she would speak. This moment of silence is what makes her revelation so significant. Because when someone finally breaks their silence, it's not just words. They carry the weight of everything that was held back. Every whispered doubt, every sleepless night, every private tear, every heartbreak that no one else saw. And now, Jessica is speaking, revealing not just the betrayal itself, but the emotional journey that led her to this point. It's a story of heartbreak, resilience, and the courage it takes to reclaim your life after someone you trusted has crossed every line imaginable. You may be wondering why this story matters so much. After all, celebrity feuds are everywhere. Gossip fills the headlines daily. But this isn't about gossip. It's about the human experience of trust, betrayal, and personal boundaries. It's about how one night, one decision, one crossing of a line can ripple through a life, affecting marriage, family, and friendships. It's about how Jessica Mulroney, someone who had everything to lose, decided that the truth needed to be told. And it's about what happens next, because in moments like this, the consequences are far-reaching. As we move into the main chapters, you'll see the full arc of the story, from the glittering heights of friendship to the shattering lows of betrayal. You'll witness the tension, the emotional turmoil, the inner struggle Jessica faced, and the decision to finally confront the truth. And you'll start to understand why she waited, why she protected her family, and why this revelation now, breaking her silence, matters not just to her, but to everyone watching. But here's the question that will follow you through this story. How does someone move forward when the person they trusted the most has crossed the line so completely? How do you rebuild your life, your sense of security, your trust in others, after such a shock? Jessica Mulroney faced this question head-on, and the answers she discovered, and the stories she is about to tell, will leave you stunned, questioning, and desperate to know what happens next. Because what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Have you ever had a friendship that felt untouchable? A bond so seamless, so effortless, that it seemed to exist outside the ordinary rules of trust and loyalty? For Jessica Mulroney, Meghan Markle was that friend. On the surface, it looked flawless. Laughs, shared glances, public appearances that radiated camaraderie, confidence, and a sense of belonging. They were photographed at events together, smiling, whispering, celebrating each other. To the public, this was the picture of perfect friendship. But as we all know, appearances are often deceiving. Jessica remembers the early days vividly. The first time she met Meghan, there was an instant connection, a spark that promised shared understanding, mutual respect, and a kind of sisterhood that's rare in life. She saw someone who matched her energy, someone ambitious yet approachable, someone whose presence seemed to pull people in effortlessly. And Jessica, ever the generous friend, welcomed her into her world without hesitation. She introduced Meghan to her closest confidants, her husband, her family. She opened doors, both literal and figurative. And Meghan, at least initially, appeared grateful, enthusiastic, and just as invested in the friendship. It wasn't just a social connection. It was a strategic one. They complemented each other publicly and privately. Jessica's career as a stylist and public figure benefited from the association, but so did Meghan's. The public adored their closeness. Headlines celebrated them. Social media buzzed with excitement every time they were photographed together. Friends goals, they said. The ultimate duo, they said. But the problem with perfect friendships, especially those under the glare of public attention, is that the perception of perfection can mask the underlying truth. From the outside looking in, everything seemed seamless. But Jessica knew something no one else could see. Even the strongest friendships have vulnerabilities. At first, they were subtle. Small disagreements about opinions, minor clashes in style or approach, tiny slights that could easily be brushed aside. But every small tension plants a seed, and every seed grows. Jessica remembers laughing off certain moments, chalking them up to the pressures of life, work, and public scrutiny. Who knew that those seeds would grow into cracks that would eventually split the foundation of her trust? And yet, the friendship thrived. For a while, they were the duo everyone wanted to emulate. Private dinners, collaborations, exclusive trips. They laughed, they supported, they shared stories that only close friends share. Jessica felt that they were in sync, that nothing could shake their bond. But this is where the contradiction emerges. The closer you are to someone, the more exposed you are to their influence, their moods, their manipulations, even if subtle. A friend who knows your vulnerabilities knows exactly where to touch to unsettle you, even without malicious intent. Or so Jessica thought, until that trust was weaponized against her. What made the friendship feel perfect was that Meghan seemed invested. She showed up. She offered advice. She listened. She laughed at jokes. She shared private moments that Jessica cherished. And that's exactly why the eventual betrayal cut so deeply. Betrayal from someone you've welcomed into your inner sanctum is not just hurt, it's disorienting. It rewires your perception of the world, your ability to trust, your sense of reality. Jessica found herself questioning everything she had accepted as truth. Yet, even with early signs of tension, Jessica rationalized and excused behaviors that, in hindsight, were red flags. She told herself that Meghan was ambitious, driven, sometimes misunderstood. That was the friendship paradox. The same qualities that made Meghan magnetic, intelligent, and charismatic were the qualities that could also make her manipulative, impulsive, or insensitive when unchecked. And when you love someone, when you value their friendship, you sometimes ignore warning signs, even blatant ones, because the alternative, a fractured bond, is unbearable. At the same time, the friendship provided Jessica with a sense of status and visibility. They were photographed together, featured in media coverage, shared in glamorous worlds that few people access. That exposure reinforced the friendship's perceived perfection. People assumed they were aligned, inseparable, and loyal. Jessica herself believed it. She wanted to believe it. But underneath the laughter, the brunches, the trips, a subtle tension was beginning to emerge. A sense that Meghan could, if pushed, overstep, dominate, or disrupt in ways that Jessica had never imagined. And this is where the story begins to twist. The friendship that once felt untouchable started to show strain. Jessica noticed that conversations would sometimes leave her unsettled. Opinions were challenged in ways that didn't feel mutual. Small disagreements seemed to escalate beyond reason. There were moments when Meghan's attention, or lack thereof, felt pointed. And yet, Jessica excused it, rationalized it, blamed herself, blamed circumstances. After all, friends have moments of friction, don't they? They are human. But every friendship has boundaries. And Jessica was about to discover how easily those boundaries could be ignored. The irony is striking. The very qualities that made their friendship seem flawless, the charm, the wit, the magnetism, the closeness, were the same qualities that enabled the eventual betrayal. When someone knows you intimately, when they understand your values, your vulnerabilities, and your routines, they also know exactly where to push. And that is precisely what happened. Jessica's trust, cultivated over years of mutual support, was about to be tested in ways she could never have anticipated. And yet, even as the cracks began forming, Jessica continued to invest in the friendship. She continued to invite Meghan into her world, to share experiences, to celebrate milestones. That's the complexity of human relationships. You can sense something is off and still cling to what was once beautiful. The history, the shared laughter, the memories, they all anchor you, even when warning signs are glaring. Jessica's investment wasn't naive. It was based on loyalty, on love, on belief in the person she had trusted the most. But here's the tension. What do you do when someone you trust begins to show patterns of behavior that are inconsistent with the values of friendship? Jessica faced this dilemma daily. She witnessed subtle manipulations, small tests of boundaries, and moments of jealousy that she initially ignored. Each incident alone might have seemed trivial. Together, they formed a pattern. And patterns, when ignored, can escalate. Jessica didn't yet know how high the stakes were, how personal the betrayal would become, or how the very person she loved as a friend would soon turn her life upside down. But what happened at that party? The moment that turned trust into betrayal was something that no one could have predicted. And that's where the story really begins.